The morning sky of Kepler 442b turned bright orange as something large fell through the clouds. Daeho Park looked up from his workbench where he was fixing a broken mining drill. The sound was unlike anything he had heard before. It was not. The sharp whistle of a ship entering atmosphere. This sound was deeper and filled with pain. Daeho dropped his tools and ran outside his small workshop. The mining station sat alone on a rocky plateau surrounded by red mountains. He had been working here for 3 years without seeing another living soul, except when Namsu brought supplies every few months. The solitude never bothered him. After his time as a combat medic in the war, he preferred the quiet company of machines. The falling object crashed into the valley below with a sound like thunder. Smoke rose from where it hit the ground. Daeho grabbed his medical kit from habit and his tool bag from necessity. Something told him he would need both. The walk down to the crash site took 20 minutes. As he got closer, Daeho could see that whatever had crashed was not made of metal. The hull looked organic, like it had grown rather than been built. Parts of it pulsed with faint light that was growing dimmer by the minute. Then he heard the sound that made him freeze. It was crying. Not human crying, but something that spoke of pain and fear in a language deeper than words. Daeho had heard enough wounded creatures in his life to recognize suffering when he heard it. He moved carefully around the crashed vessel. What he saw next would stay with him for the rest of his life. A creature lay trapped beneath part of the vessel's hull. She was magnificent and terrible at the same time. Her body was covered in scales that shifted color like oil on water. She had 4 legs, or had once. Her back legs were twisted at angles that made Daeho's stomach turn. Wings that could have carried her through space hung broken at her sides, but it was her eyes that stopped him completely. They were large and intelligent, and filled with pain that went beyond the physical. This was not just an animal. This was a thinking, feeling being who knew exactly how badly she was hurt. Around her huddled 3 smaller versions of herself. They were no bigger than house cats, but moved with the same fluid grace their mother must have possessed before her injuries. Their scales glowed with soft light that pulsed in rhythm with their breathing. They pressed close to their mother's head, making soft, chirping sounds. The mother creature saw Daeho and tried to move. Her front legs scrabbled against the rocky ground, but her back legs did not respond. She made a sound that was part growl and part whimper. The 3 young ones turned to look at him with eyes that held both fear and desperate hope. Daeho set down his bags slowly and held up his empty hands. He had learned long ago that wounded creatures, human or otherwise, needed to see that you meant no harm before they would let you help them. "Easy there," he said softly. His voice carried the calm tone he had used with wounded soldiers. "I want to help." The creature's eyes fixed on his face. For a moment, something passed between them. Daeho felt a strange tingling in his mind, like someone was gently touching his thoughts. Images flashed through his head that were not his own. He saw stars and the darkness between them. He saw the creature flying through space with her young ones beside her. He saw other ships attacking them with bright weapons. Then he saw what she was trying to tell him. She was dying. Her legs were not just broken, but shattered in ways that would not heal. Worse, the ship she had been bonded with was dying too. Daeho did not understand how he knew this, but he was certain it was true. He opened his medical kit and approached slowly. The creature watched him but did not try to move away. Her breathing was labored and he could see that she was going into shock. Whatever connection existed between her and her ship, its death was affecting her too. Daeho had treated many kinds of injuries, but nothing like this. The creature's legs were not just bone and muscle. They had a crystalline structure that caught the light and seemed to conduct some kind of energy. Where they were broken, that energy leaked out in sparks of blue and green. He started with what he knew. Shock was the same in any creature. He covered her with a thermal blanket from his kit and set up a small shelter using parts from his tool bag. The three young ones watched everything he did with bright, curious eyes. One of them, slightly larger than the others, crept closer to investigate his medical supplies. Daeho held still as tiny claws touched his hand. The young one's scales were warm and seemed to hum with some internal energy. When it looked up at him, Daeho felt that same gentle touch in his mind. This one was not afraid of him. The mother creature made a soft sound, and the young one returned to her side. But now all three of them looked at Daeho differently. He was no longer a threat. He was something else. Something that might be able to help. Daeho looked at the broken legs and then at his toolkit. He was a mechanic and a medic, but what lay before him was beyond either skill set. These creatures needed xenobiology expertise he did not have, and equipment he could not imagine. But as he knelt beside the wounded mother, watching her eyes grow dimmer as her ship's light faded, Daeho made a decision that would change everything. He would find a way to help them. He had to. The young ones settled closer to their mother as the first night fell on Kepler 442b. Their scales provided the only light in the growing darkness, pulsing gently like heartbeats made visible. Daeho sat nearby, keeping watch and thinking about impossible solutions to an impossible problem. He did not know it yet, but he was about to attempt something that had never been done before in the history of galactic civilization. The second day brought clearer communication between Daeho and the wounded creature. He had spent the night beside them, keeping a small heater running and checking on their condition every few hours. The mother's breathing had grown stronger, but her back legs remained completely still. When morning came, she looked directly at him, and something changed in his mind. Instead of the gentle touching sensation he had felt before, now he could see actual images. They appeared in his thoughts, as clearly as if he was watching a video screen. The creature showed him her name first. It was not a word, but a feeling of warmth and protection mixed with the sound of wind through crystal caves. Daeho could not pronounce it, but he understood she was called Ethis. She was ancient by human standards, having lived for over 300 years traveling between the stars. Next came images of her three young ones. The largest, who had touched his hand the night before, was Pyrex. His scales held more red than the others, and he moved with quick, curious energy. The smallest was Zephys, her scales shifting between blue and silver as she breathed. The middle child was Umbra, whose dark scales seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Then Ethis showed him something that made Daeho's breath catch in his throat. She projected images of her people, the Dracorians, soaring through space without ships. Instead, they bonded with living creatures that served as vessels. These bioships were not built but grown, and they formed a connection with their Dracorian partners that went deeper than any human technology. The crashed vessel around them was dying. Ethis showed him how the bioship's organs were shutting, down one by one. Its heart, a pulsing chamber deep in the center, was beating slower each hour. When it stopped, the connection that kept Ethis and her young alive would be severed forever. Daeho felt sick as he understood what she was telling him. Without the bioship, they would die within days. Her injuries were too severe for her body to heal on its own, and the young ones were too small to survive without their mother. The sound of an approaching vehicle broke through his thoughts. Namsu's supply truck was climbing the rocky path to the mining station, 2 days early for his monthly visit. Daeho had never been happier to see another human being. Namsu Kim was a practical man in his 50s who had been running supply routes for 20 years. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he claimed. But when he saw the crashed bioship and its occupants, he stopped dead in his tracks. Daeho, he said slowly, what exactly am I looking at here? Injured travelers, Daeho replied. A mother and her children who need help. Namsu approached carefully. He had children of his own back on the colony world of New Sol, and despite his caution around the alien creatures, he recognized the protective way Ethis kept her young close to her head. Pyrrhix was the first to investigate the newcomer. The young dragon crept forward with his head tilted curiously. Namsu knelt down and offered his hand the way he might approach a nervous dog. When Pyrrhix touched his fingers with one small claw, Namsu smiled for the first time since arriving. "They are beautiful," he admitted. "But Deho, look at her legs. How can we possibly help with injuries like that?" Deho had been thinking about that all night. He led Namsu back to his workshop and showed him the medical scans he had taken. With his portable equipment, the images revealed the full extent of the damage. Ethis's back legs were not just broken, but completely shattered. Worse, her spine showed hairline fractures that would prevent any natural healing. In a proper medical facility with xenobiology experts, maybe something could be done, Deho said. But here, with what we have, "You have an idea," Namsu said. He had known Deho long enough to recognize that expression. "I can see it in your eyes." Deho pulled up files on his computer, showing prosthetic designs he had studied during his medical training. Human prosthetics had advanced tremendously in recent years, using biomechanical interfaces that connected directly to the nervous system. "What if we could adapt the technology?" he asked. "Create something that works with her biology instead of against it." Namsu stared at the designs. "You want to give an alien dragon mechanical legs?" "Not just mechanical," Deho explained. "Hybrid biomechanical, using materials from her bioship to create interfaces that her body will accept." It sounded impossible even as he said it. No one had ever successfully merged human technology with alien biology. The rejection responses alone should make it fatal to attempt. But Ethis had been listening to their conversation through her connection with Deho's mind. She projected new images that made both men gasp. She showed them the internal structure of Dracorian bioships, revealing how they integrated living tissue with crystalline matrices that conducted energy-like circuits. More importantly, she showed them how Dracorians had once, long ago, helped other species by sharing their biotechnology. The concept of hybrid systems was not unknown to her people, though it had never been attempted with mechanical components. Namsu spent the afternoon getting to know the three young ones, while Deho and Ethis worked on communication. The dragons seemed to understand that the humans were trying to help. Zephys brought Namsu small crystals from inside the bioship, while Umbra showed him how certain surfaces glowed when touched. By evening, Namsu had accepted what Deho proposed to attempt. "My daughter would never forgive me if I let these little ones lose their mother," he said, watching Pyrrhix play with a piece of wire from the toolkit. As night fell again, Ethis projected one final image into Deho's mind. It showed her flying again, but this time her legs were different. They gleamed with both organic curves and mechanical precision, neither fully biological nor entirely artificial, but something new and wonderful. It was hope made visible, and it gave Deho the determination he would need for the impossible task ahead. The bioship's heartbeat grew fainter as the second night passed, but now there was a plan forming. It would require skill, luck, and materials they did not yet have. But for the first time since the crash, there was a chance. 3. Humans and 4 dragons settled in to wait for morning when the real work would begin. The third morning brought Jin-A Choi to the mining station. Namsu had sent an emergency message to the research outpost during the night, though he had been careful about what he said over open channels. Jin-A arrived expecting a mining accident, not the discovery of intelligent alien life. She stood at the edge of the crash site for a full 5 minutes without speaking. As a xenobotanist, she had studied theoretical alien biology for years, but seeing living examples was different from reading research papers. The bioship's organic hull pulsed weakly in the morning light, and she could see how its cellular structure was breaking down. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Living spacecraft technology is purely theoretical. No one has ever seen anything like this." Ethis lifted her great head and looked directly at Jin-A. The telepathic contact was gentler this time, showing simple images of greeting and gratitude. Ginny stumbled backward as alien thoughts touched her mind, but curiosity quickly overcame fear. "She is trying to communicate," Ginny said in wonder. "The neural pathways required for cross-species telepathy should not exist." Daiho helped Ginny understand what they had learned about Dracorian biology. The three young ones were fascinated by the new human and crowded around her boots, chirping softly. Pyrrhix seemed especially interested in the electronic equipment she carried for analyzing plant samples. Ginny's scientific training took over as she began examining the bioship's structure. What she found exceeded every theory about organic technology. The ship was not just alive, but incredibly sophisticated. Its walls contained networks of crystalline fibers that conducted both electrical impulses and some form of bioenergy she could not identify. "The integration is perfect," she explained to Daiho and Namsu. "Living tissue and crystalline matrices working together as one system. But it is dying because the central nervous system has been damaged." She showed them readings from her instruments. The bioship's brain, located deep in its core, had been injured in the crash. Without surgical intervention that was far beyond their capabilities, it would continue to deteriorate. "How long does she have?" Daiho asked. "Days, maybe a week if we can stabilize some of the failing organs," Jin-A replied. "But Daiho, what you are proposing is madness. Biomechanical fusion has never been attempted between species. The rejection response alone would kill her." Ethis had been listening to their conversation through her mental link with Daiho. She projected new images that made all three humans gasp. She showed them memories of her people's history, when Dracorians had helped other species by sharing. Biotechnology. The hybrid systems had worked, but only with biological components. "She is saying that mechanical fusion is different," Daiho interpreted. "But she believes it might be possible if we use materials from her ship as interfaces." Jin-A's eyes lit up with scientific excitement despite the danger. "A biomechanical bridge using familiar organic compounds. The ship's crystalline fibers could theoretically conduct nerve impulses to mechanical components." They spent the morning gathering materials. Daiho had advanced fabrication equipment at the mining station for building replacement parts. Jin-A collected samples from the bioship's least damaged sections. Namsu helped organize their makeshift laboratory while keeping the young dragons entertained. The three little ones proved surprisingly helpful. Pyrrhix could squeeze into tight spaces inside the bioship to retrieve specific components. His scales seemed to respond to the ship's bioelectrical fields, lighting up when he found what they needed. Zephys had incredible precision in her small claws and could handle delicate crystalline fibers without breaking them. Umbra demonstrated an intuitive understanding of the ship's energy flows, guiding them to the most viable organic materials. "They are remarkable," Ginny said as she watched. "Umbra, direct them to a cluster of intact neural fibers. Their intelligence development is far beyond what their size would suggest." By afternoon, they had the basic components for Daiho's impossible plan. Mechanical support structures built from mining equipment alloys, crystalline bio-interfaces harvested from the dying ship, organic conducting fibers that could carry both electrical and bioelectrical signals. The design took shape slowly. The prosthetics would not replace Ethis's legs, but supplement them. Mechanical frames would provide structural support, while organic interfaces would allow her nervous system to control the movement. The crystalline components would translate her bioelectrical signals into mechanical responses. "It is elegant, in theory," Jin-A admitted as they worked through the evening. "But theory and practice are very different things." We have never tested biocompatibility between human-made materials and Dracorian physiology. Hyun-Woo Jang arrived just as the sun was setting. Namsu's message had reached the trading post, and the former military engineer had brought additional supplies. His experience with power systems and battlefield repairs would be crucial for the bioelectrical interfaces. Hyun-Woo took one look at their plans and shook his head. "You are all insane. This kind of precision work requires clean rooms and surgical robots. We are working in a mining station with improvised tools." But when he saw Ethis struggling to lift her head as her condition worsened, his expression softened. "My unit once rescued civilians from a burning transport. Sometimes you work with what you have because waiting for perfect conditions means people die." The four humans worked through the night, while the young dragons slept curled against their mother's warm scales. Daeho fabricated the mechanical components with mining station equipment. Jin-A prepared the organic interfaces using her field laboratory. Hyun-Woo designed power coupling systems that could handle both mechanical and bioelectrical loads. Namsu coordinated everything and prepared surgical supplies. By dawn, they had created something that had never existed before. The prosthetics looked alien themselves, combining smooth mechanical curves with organic textures that seemed to pulse with inner light. The crystalline interfaces caught the morning sun and threw rainbow patterns across the workshop walls. Ethis examined their work through her mental connection with Daeho. Her response was a mixture of amazement and fear. The prosthetics were beautiful, but the surgery required to attach them would be dangerous beyond measure. "We cannot anesthetize her completely because she needs to guide us through the procedure," Daeho explained. "Dracorian nervous systems are too different from human biology for us to work blind." "So she will be conscious throughout the operation," Jin-A said quietly, "feeling everything we do while teaching us how to integrate foreign technology with her body." The bioship's heartbeat was growing weaker. They could all hear it now, a slow rhythm that seemed to echo from the damaged hull. Time was running out. Ethis made her decision and projected it clearly to all of them. She was ready to try the impossible. For her children, she would endure anything. The fourth day dawned gray and cloudy, matching the mood at the mining station. Everything was ready for the surgery, but none of the humans felt prepared for what they were about to attempt. Daeho had performed field surgery before, but never anything like this. The others had no surgical experience at all. Ethis lay on a makeshift operating table built from mining equipment platforms. Her breathing was labored, and her scales had lost much of their color. The bioship's heartbeat had slowed to barely 30 beats per minute. They were running out of time. "Remember, she will guide us through each step," Daeho said to his makeshift surgical team. "Jin-A monitors the biological responses. Hyun-Woo handles power and electrical systems. Namsu assists and watches the children." The three young dragons had positioned themselves where they could see their mother but stay out of the way. Their scales glowed brighter than usual, pulsing in rhythm with their breathing. Jin-A believed they were trying to share their energy. With Ethis, though she could not prove it scientifically, Daeho began by cleaning and sterilizing the surgical area. Human antiseptics might not work on Dracorian biology, but they were better than nothing. Ethis watched everything with alert eyes, projecting calm confidence she might not have felt. The first incision was the hardest. Daeho's hand trembled as he made a small cut near where Ethis's left rear leg joined her body. Her scales parted cleanly, revealing tissue that looked familiar, yet alien. Blood that glowed faintly blue pooled in the wound. Ethis projected reassurance into his mind. The cut was good, clean, and precise. She guided him deeper, showing him which tissues to avoid and which could be safely cut. Her nervous system was more complex than human biology, with redundant pathways that could handle some damage. "Bioelectrical. Activity is stable," Jin-A reported, watching her instruments. "Whatever she is doing to manage the pain, it is working." The most difficult part was accessing the shattered bone structure. Ethos's legs contained not just bone, but crystalline supports that had conducted bioelectrical energy throughout her body. These were completely destroyed, which was why her legs no longer responded to her will. "I can see the damage," Deho said, examining the injury with a small camera probe. "The crystalline matrix is shattered into fragments. Some pieces are embedded in the surrounding tissue." Ethos showed him which fragments could be removed and which were too dangerous to touch. Each piece had to be extracted carefully to avoid further nerve damage. The work was slow and precise, requiring steady hands and complete trust in her guidance. Hyun-woo had connected monitoring equipment to track the bioelectrical flows in Ethos's body. As Deho worked, he could see the energy patterns changing. "The signals are trying to reach her legs, but hitting dead ends where the crystalline pathways are broken. That is where our interfaces will bridge the gap," Ginny explained. "The organic fibers we harvested should be compatible with her existing neural pathways." After 3 hours of careful work, Deho had cleared away the damaged tissue and crystalline fragments. The prepared socket for the first prosthetic was ready. Now came the moment of truth. The biomechanical interface looked like a work of art. Organic curves flowed into mechanical precision, connected by crystalline fibers that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. It had taken all their skills to create something that was neither fully biological nor completely artificial. "Beginning interface attachment," Deho announced. His voice was steady despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. The organic components had to be connected first, integrating with Ethos's existing neural pathways. She guided him through each connection, showing him which fibers carried motor signals and which handled sensory feedback. The work required precision measured in millimeters. "Bioelectrical activity is increasing," Jin-A reported with excitement. "The organic interfaces are being accepted by her system." Next came the mechanical components. The prosthetic frame had to be anchored to healthy bone while connecting to the bioelectrical interfaces. Hyun-woo monitored the power flows as each connection was made. "Signal strength is good," he said. "The crystalline bridges are conducting both ways. Motor signals going down, sensory feedback coming back up." The young dragons had been watching silently throughout the surgery. But as the first prosthetic took shape, they began to glow brighter. Their scales pulsed in perfect synchronization, creating patterns of light that seemed to dance across the workshop walls. "They are doing something," Jin-A observed in wonder. "Some kind of energy sharing or healing ritual." Ethos confirmed this through her mental link. Her children were giving her their strength, sharing their life force to help her body accept the foreign technology. It was something Dracorians did. In extreme circumstances, a family bond that went beyond the physical. The first leg took 6 hours to complete. When Deho made the final connection, something remarkable happened. The prosthetic twitched slightly as Ethos sent her first conscious command through the new pathways. It moved. Namsu whispered in amazement. She actually moved it. But there was no time to celebrate. The bioship's heartbeat was growing even weaker, and they still had the second leg to repair. Deho stretched his cramped muscles and began work on the right side. The second surgery went faster now that they understood the process. Ethos's guidance was clearer, and the team worked together with growing confidence. The young dragons maintained their energy sharing, their scales creating a soft light that made the technical equipment seem almost magical. "Second interface connecting," Deho reported as he attached the organic components. "Signal pathways are clean and strong." The mechanical frame for the second leg was slightly different, adapted for the specific damage on that side. Hyun-woo had improved the power coupling based on what they learned from the first prosthetic. The integration went smoothly, each connection building on the success of the previous ones. As the final components were attached, Ethos sent test signals through both new legs. The prosthetics responded with smooth, natural movements that looked almost biological despite their mechanical nature. Both legs are functioning, Daeho announced as he finished the final sutures. Bioelectrical integration is stable across all systems. The surgery had taken 14 hours. All 4 humans were exhausted, but they had achieved the impossible. Ethis lay quietly on the operating table, her new legs gleaming in the workshop lights. The young dragons pressed close to their mother, their scales now pulsing with joy, rather than worry. But the most remarkable thing was what happened next. As Ethis rested and recovered from the surgery, the bioship's heartbeat began to strengthen. The dying vessel seemed to respond to her renewed vitality, as if the successful integration had somehow restored their symbiotic connection. The feedback loop is working in reverse, Jin'e said in amazement. Her recovery is helping the ship heal itself. They had not just saved Ethis's life. They had created something entirely new in galactic history. The first successful biomechanical integration between species was complete. Recovery was harder than the surgery itself. Ethis spent 3 days learning to coordinate her new legs with her natural movements. The biomechanical interfaces worked perfectly, but her brain needed time to adapt to the strange new sensations. The prosthetics felt different from her original legs. They were stronger and more precise, but they lacked the organic warmth she was used to. Each step required conscious thought instead of instinct. Simple movements that had once been automatic now demanded complete attention. Daeho worked with her every day, adjusting the mechanical components and fine-tuning the bioelectrical responses. The prosthetics were more complex than anything he had built before. They had to respond to not just motor commands, but also to Ethis's emotional state and the bioelectrical fluctuations that were normal for her species. The left leg is responding too quickly to movement commands, he observed, watching her attempt to stand. I can adjust the sensitivity in the neural interface. Ethis appreciated his patience. Through their mental connection, she could feel his determination to make everything work perfectly. He treated her prosthetics not as foreign attachments, but as extensions of herself that needed to feel natural and right. Jin'e monitored the biological integration daily. Her instruments showed that Ethis's body was not rejecting the foreign materials. In fact, the opposite was happening. Her natural systems were adapting to work better with the mechanical components. The organic interfaces are growing, she reported with excitement. New neural pathways are developing to take advantage of the prosthetics' capabilities. Her brain is literally rewiring itself to optimize the integration. This was beyond anything they had hoped for. Instead of simply replacing damaged function, the biomechanical legs were enhancing Ethis's abilities. The mechanical components provided strength and precision that exceeded her original biological limits. Hyunwoo spent his time working on the power systems. The prosthetics drew energy both from Ethis's bioelectrical field and from small fusion cells he had installed. Balancing these 2 power sources required constant monitoring and adjustment. The energy efficiency is remarkable, he noted. Her body is learning to optimize power distribution between biological and mechanical systems. Sometimes the prosthetics actually feed power back into her natural electrical field. Namsu focused on helping the young dragons adapt to their mother's changes. Pyrrhix, Zephys, and Umbra were fascinated by the prosthetics, but also worried about how different their mother seemed. They needed reassurance that she was still the same being who loved and protected them. The 3 young ones helped with rehabilitation in their own way. They would run around Ethis's legs during her walking exercises, encouraging her with happy chirping sounds. When she stumbled or lost balance, they would press against her sides, offering both physical support and emotional comfort. They understand that she is getting better, Namsu observed as he watched them play. But they also know she needs their help during this difficult time. Yunmi Seo arrived during the 2nd week of recovery. The communications specialist had come from the research outpost to help establish better translation protocols between humans and Dracorians. Her equipment could analyze Ethys's telepathic projections and convert them into spoken language. "This is extraordinary," Yunmi said as she calibrated her devices. Her telepathic abilities operate on multiple frequency bands simultaneously. She can communicate pure emotion, abstract concepts, and concrete information all at the same time. The translation system opened up entirely new possibilities for communication. Now Ethys could explain complex concepts about Dracorian culture and technology without relying on mental images alone. She told them about her people's history, their exploration of the galaxy, and their philosophy of harmonious coexistence with other life forms. "We have traveled between stars for thousands of your years," Ethys explained through the translator. "But we have never encountered a species like humans. Your willingness to help strangers and adapt your technology for others is unique in our experience." She also shared knowledge that fascinated the human scientists. Dracorian bioships could navigate hyperspace using biological sensors that detected quantum fluctuations. Their living hulls could repair themselves from almost any damage given. Enough time and energy. Most remarkably, they could adapt their internal structure to accommodate different species and environments. "Your people could benefit greatly from this technology," Ethys told them. "Bioships are more efficient than mechanical vessels and can support life for centuries without resupply. But the knowledge has never been shared with non-biological species before." 3 weeks after surgery, Ethys took her first real steps. The prosthetics moved with fluid grace, responding to her thoughts as naturally as her original legs ever had. She walked slowly at first, then with growing confidence as muscle memory adapted to the new capabilities. The young dragons celebrated by flying circles around their mother, their scales blazing with joy. They had grown larger and more capable during their time at the mining station, and their flying skills had improved dramatically. But they still preferred to stay close to Ethys, especially when she was learning something new. "Watch this," Deho said with pride as he demonstrated one of the prosthetic's special features. The mechanical legs could extend their length, allowing Ethys to reach higher places or adjust her stride for different terrain. They could also lock into positions that would be impossible for biological joints, giving her stability on uneven surfaces. But the most remarkable development was what happened with the bioship. As Ethys grew stronger and more comfortable with her prosthetics, her vessel continued to heal. The dying organism had not just stabilized, but was actually regenerating damaged systems. "The symbiotic relationship is stronger than before," Jin observed. "The biomechanical integration seems to have enhanced their natural connection. She is not just healing the ship, but improving its capabilities." The bioship's hull was changing color from sickly gray to healthy green. Its internal organs were functioning normally again, and new growth was visible around the areas that had been most severely damaged. Most importantly, its heartbeat had returned to normal strength and rhythm. By the end of the 4th week, Ethys was not just walking, but running. Her prosthetics allowed her to move faster and more precisely than she ever had before. She could leap distances that would have been impossible with biological legs alone, and she could maintain her balance in situations that would challenge any natural creature. "I am more than I was before," she told the humans through the translator. "The surgery did not just repair damage but gave me new possibilities. I can interface with both biological and mechanical systems now, understanding both in ways my people have never experienced." The young dragons had adapted to their mother's changes completely. They played games that took advantage of her new abilities, challenging her to reach high places or navigate complex obstacle courses that Deho set up for physical therapy. "They are proud of her," Namsu observed as he watched the family interact. "She is different now, but she is still there. Mother?" And they can see that she is stronger and happier than she has been since the crash. As the 5th week began, Ethys made an announcement that surprised everyone. She wanted to attempt flight. Her wings had been damaged in the crash, but not as severely as her legs. With her new prosthetics providing perfect balance and stability, she believed she could take to the air again. The prospect was both thrilling and terrifying. No one knew how the biomechanical integration would affect her flying ability. But Ethis was determined to try, and the humans were committed to helping her achieve this final step in her recovery. 6 months later, the mining station had become something no one could have imagined. What started as Dae-ho's lonely workplace was now a thriving center where two species worked together in ways that had never been possible before. Ethis had not just learned to fly again, but had discovered that her prosthetics gave her capabilities that exceeded her original abilities. The biomechanical legs could interface directly with both Dracorian bioships and human technology, making her a living bridge between two completely different approaches to engineering. Her first successful flight had taken place 2 months after surgery. With her children flying beside her and the humans watching anxiously from below, she had launched herself into the air with powerful wing beats. The prosthetics provided perfect stability and control, allowing her to maneuver with precision. That amazed even her. She flies like she was born with those legs, Namsu had said in wonder as they watched her soar through the canyon near the mining station. But flight was just the beginning. As Aethys grew more comfortable with her hybrid nature, she began experimenting with her new abilities. She could connect directly to the mining station's computer systems through her prosthetics, understanding human technology at a level that surprised even Dae-ho. The biomechanical interfaces translate between our different approaches to engineering, she explained to Ki-young Park, Dae-ho's younger brother, who had arrived to document their breakthrough. I can understand human digital systems and Dracorian bioelectrical networks equally well now. Ki-young was a stellar cartographer who specialized in documenting first contact situations. His arrival had made their work official in the eyes of both human colonial government and the galactic community. Word was spreading through both species about the unprecedented cooperation taking place on Kepler 442b. This changes everything. We know about interspecies technology sharing, Ki-young reported in his official documentation. The successful biomechanical integration proves that human engineering and alien biology can work together in ways we never imagined possible. The 3 young dragons had grown considerably during their time at the station. Pyrrhix now demonstrated an intuitive understanding of both human mechanics and Dracorian biotechnology. He could diagnose problems with mining equipment as easily as he could tend to bioship systems. Zephys had developed remarkable skills in precision work, able to perform repairs on components so delicate that human hands could not handle them safely. Her small size and steady claws made her invaluable for working inside both mechanical systems and biological organisms. Umbra showed the greatest aptitude for understanding energy systems, whether bioelectrical or mechanical. She could trace power flows through complex networks and identify problems that sophisticated instruments might miss. They represent the future, Ethys told the growing number of researchers who came to study their situation. A generation that grew up understanding both human and Dracorian approaches to technology. They think in ways that neither species has achieved alone. The bioship had not just recovered, but transformed. Its hull now incorporated crystalline matrices that could interface with human computer systems while maintaining its biological functions. The vessel had become a hybrid organism that could communicate with both bioelectrical and digital networks. It is learning to be something new, Jin-A explained to visiting scientists. The bioship is adapting its internal structure to accommodate both biological and mechanical systems. We are watching evolution happen in real time. Dae-ho had become something of a celebrity in engineering circles. His technique for biomechanical integration was being studied on dozens of worlds, though no one had yet achieved the same level of success. The combination of his medical background, mechanical skills, and willingness to take impossible risks seemed to be unique. The key is not fighting the differences between biological and mechanical systems, he explained to students who came to learn from him. Success comes from finding ways to make those differences work together as strengths rather than obstacles. But perhaps the most important development was what happened when other Dracorians arrived. A small fleet of bioships had detected the unique energy signature of Ethos's hybrid prosthetics and came to investigate. Their arrival had been tense at first, as her people struggled to understand what had been done to her. They thought we had harmed her, Yunmi translated as the Dracorian elders examined Ethos's prosthetics. The concept of voluntary biomechanical integration was completely foreign to them, but when they saw how much stronger and more capable Ethos had become, their concern changed to fascination. The eldest among them, an ancient female named Christhia, spent days studying the integration and talking with the human team. "This opens possibilities we never considered," Christhia eventually announced. "For millennia, we believed that biological systems were superior to mechanical ones. But you have shown us that integration can create capabilities that exceed either approach alone." The result was the establishment of the first official human Dracorian research station. Scientists and engineers from both species came to Kepler 442b to study biomechanical integration and develop new technologies that combine the best of both approaches. Yunwu found himself leading teams that developed hybrid power systems, capable of supporting both biological and mechanical components. Nam-Su became a specialist in interspecies logistics, managing supply chains that had to account for the needs of both humans and Dracorians. "We are creating a new field of science," Jin'e said as she supervised experiments in biomechanical adaptation. Hybrid engineering that treats biological and mechanical systems as complementary rather than competing approaches. The young dragons became ambassadors between species, equally comfortable with humans and Dracorians. They served as interpreters not just of language but of fundamental concepts that each species understood differently. The impact extended far beyond Kepler 442b. Human colonial worlds began incorporating Dracorian biotechnology into their infrastructure, creating living buildings that could repair themselves and adapt to changing conditions. Dracorian exploration fleets integrated human mechanical systems that provided capabilities their bioships had never possessed. Trade and cooperation have replaced suspicion and competition, Ki Young noted in his final report. Two species that might never have worked together successfully have found common ground through shared compassion and willingness to help those in need. But for Daeho, the most satisfying moment came when he watched Ethos teaching her children to interface with both biological and mechanical systems. Her prosthetics had become so natural that the young ones saw them not as artificial attachments, but as normal parts of their mother. "They will grow up thinking that biomechanical integration is natural," he said to Nam-Su, as they watched the family practice complex maneuvers that combined flying, mechanical manipulation, and bioelectrical control. "Their children will take it even further," Nam-Su replied. "Each generation will build on what we started here." As the first anniversary of the crash approached, Ethos made a decision that sealed the bond between species. She chose to remain on Kepler 442b permanently, serving as the first Dracorian ambassador to human space. Her bioship had adapted so completely to hybrid operations that it could serve both species equally well. The mining station was now a small city, bustling with activity as researchers, engineers, and diplomats from dozens of worlds came to study and learn. But at its heart remained the same spirit that had driven Daeho to help a wounded mother and her children. Sometimes the most important breakthroughs come from simply caring about others, Ethos said during the dedication ceremony for the new research facility. "Your willingness to help strangers without expecting anything in return has created possibilities that neither of our species could have achieved alone." The ceremony ended with a flight demonstration that showed how far they had all come. Ethos soared through the sky with her children beside her, her prosthetics gleaming in the sunlight as human and Dracorian vessels flew in formation around them. It was a sight that represented hope for the future. Two species working together, not despite their differences, but because of them. The mother dragon with broken legs had indeed found salvation in a human mechanic, but in the process, both species had discovered something far more valuable than they had ever imagined possible: